To say that the Clamperl Limited Research Event was a resounding success would be the understatement of the century, and I'm not speaking in hyperbole. Following a very rough Feebas Limited Research Event, Niantic bounced back in a monstrously big way with Clamperl. Yes, it wasn't a perfect event, and I will address some of the areas where they can improve for future iterations, but this was the culmination of a great culture at Niantic, and a great attitude that they have towards the game and the community of players. This event gave us so many reasons to appreciate Niantic and their approach to the game. No matter what gripes you might have with Pokémon Go, you absolutely cannot deny that this event was a huge step in a good direction for the game. We have to give credit where credit is due here. What's up you guys, it's me, it's Count here with another Pokemon Go video. Today I wanted to talk about the Clamperl Research Event. I really think this event was a huge success for Niantic, for us as players, and I really wanted to highlight some of the things that really went well with this event. And I also want to talk about some constructive criticism based on the feedback from the community. And I really think there's a great discussion that is potentially happening here with the Clamperl Research Event. I really think it's a great sign for the future of Pokemon Go. And I really think that feedback from us as players are extremely important for Niantic. If we have problems with the game, I think it's important that we realize that Niantic is listening. So that's the lesson that I'm going to be talking about in this video. But if you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And without further ado, let's talk about the Clamperl Research Event. On January 19th, 2019, Niantic tried something completely different than what they have done throughout all of 2018, and that was the Feebas Limited Research Event. For only 3 hours, you had an opportunity to get yourself a shiny Feebas by completing special research tasks. The buzz behind this event was very high. Not only were people excited at the opportunity of getting a shiny Feebas, but the event was something different and something new. However, that buzz completely died out quickly once the event started. On paper, the Feebas Limited Research Event had great potential. This was a new kind of community day, another reason for players to come out and meet others and play the game. For everything that makes Community Day so great, this event was supposed to elevate those qualities by utilizing a fairly overlooked aspect of Pokemon Go, which is research. You were not just simply catching Pokemon for 3 hours in some mad shiny hunt. You had to coordinate, work together, and travel together. So what went wrong? In a video I published a couple weeks ago, I already covered much of the problems with this event, so I won't go into detail with them. I'll link the video down below so you can check it out yourself. However, I did want to emphasize one point that I made in that video, which is how Niantic responded to the negativity from the Feebas event. What I pointed out was that Liz George, the community manager for Niantic, did make several social media posts acknowledging the studio's shortcomings, that they are listening to all of the feedback and they wanted to make positive changes moving forward. Fast forward a few weeks later and we get the Clamperl Limited Research Event, which would put to the test Niantic's capability to listen to feedback. And oh boy, did they actually listen. If you want a picture-perfect example of a company listening to their customers' feedback and then rebounding in the most astonishing way after failing to deliver a product, then this is exactly it. Almost entirely across the board, Niantic made adjustments that addressed each one of the player base's concerns. Simpler research tasks, increased general spawns, increased shiny rates, etc. You name it, they did it. However, there's one piece of feedback which Niantic took to heart that I really wanted to highlight here. And that feedback was that players really wanted the research event to have a theme of some kind. Some players pointed out that, granted Feebas is a water-type Pokemon, the general spawns should have had mostly water types, with the tasks themselves involving those water types. Thematically, this would have just made more sense. This is something Niantic included for Clamperl. Since Clamperl is a water type, there was also a plethora of other water type spawns during the limited time window. These weren't generic, overly common water types either. They were rare water types, evolved forms, and in general just a huge variety. One thing about these spawns that was also really special was that a vast majority of them already had a shiny form in Pokemon Go. And while it wasn't confirmed, these specific Pokemon had a slightly increased chance of being shiny. This gave the event a community day feel. While the focus was on Clamperl and the research tasks, the general spawns were not throwaway spawns. Maybe going forward, this sort of event should be the norm. The amount of positivity that it drew can only be great for Niantic. I mean, the sense of community was huge. A lot of people were working together, and in general, there was just a lot of lack of disappointment. However, if they were to continue their hot streak of listening to the community, there are a few things that they could still change. Now, full disclosure before I get into the next part of my video, I was not able to do this event for more than 20 to 30 minutes, so a lot of the criticisms that I'm going to be talking about in the next part of this video, I can't necessarily agree with it because I didn't participate enough to actually experience these criticisms, but at the same time, I cannot ignore them because they are coming directly from the community. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about now, I took from Twitter, I took from the Sylph Road, I even took from my local communities, like when they were discussing this event after the event ended. So these are some of the things that Niantic could improve on, but I really want to emphasize that this is not me trying to be negative. I actually think the event was great and it was a big success, but these are just some of the little things that I think they can work on moving forward to make the event even more successful than it already was. One of the problems that players had with this event is an ongoing problem that is not specific to this event, and of course that is the rural problem. You see, the way in which you could have maximized this event is if you had a high concentration of Pokestops and spawn points within a given area. What that means is that this event really favored players in urban and suburban areas. If you have ever been to a rural part of the world, you would know that Pokestops and spawn points are far and few between. Sure, you could have driven yourself to a local town which could potentially have a good number of stops, but it still may not be enough for a player to finish 20 or more tasks. This was vital for the event as the shiny rate was tweaked so that it was still somewhat rare, but it was easily obtainable if you were able to grind. But if you didn't have the resources to grind, that is going to be a huge problem for every player in rural areas. Now, another criticism that players had was the limited time factor. Most players are not easily able to spare 3 hours every Saturday for Pokemon Go events. People work, people have families, and in general, people have responsibilities. To have this research event so quickly right after a community day week meant players who couldn't get off work 2 weeks in a row would have to essentially miss out. The plus side of this is that Niantic was fully aware of it, even going so far as to specifically clarify that Clamperl wouldn't be exclusive to this event, and it would be spawning in the wild afterward. We can at least appreciate that they didn't go full on FOMO here. As I mentioned, I could only participate in about 15 to 20 minutes of this event. Fortunately, I was able to pick up at least 2 shiny Clamperl during this time, but I did feel a sense of missing out because I couldn't participate for the full duration. I think several players, according to my social media at least, had the same issue. However, I did take solace in the fact that this wasn't an event exclusive Pokemon. I was relieved that the next time I would have a chance at a Clamperl would not be months or even a year from now. There were certainly other gripes that players had, which I won't really get into in this video, but regardless, I just have to commend Niantic. I would be hard pressed to say that this event was a failure in any way. I do believe that the think tank at Niantic is constantly looking to create new and interesting ways for us to enjoy this game. Yes, maybe with the Feebas Research Event they didn't exactly stuck the landing, but they rebounded really hard and started soaring with the Clamperl event. And to be honest, Niantic can really thank the community for that. Our feedback really does pay off in a big way. So there you have it, folks. That's going to be it for this video, and of course this is a big discussion. I want to talk about the Clamperl Limited Research Event. Did you think it was a success? I actually think it was a resounding success, but there were shortcomings with this event. And of course, if you compare it to the Feebas Limited Research Event, it's still kind of outweighs the negatives, like if you think about all the positives with this event. But I still think it's constructive for this game that we continue to criticize and critique and provide our feedback so that Niantic can make adjustments as they go, because if you compare this event to how it was with the Feebas event, they completely improved this sort of event, and I think they can continue to improve on it. I really think that is important. If you haven't followed Liz George on Twitter, I really suggest you go on Twitter and follow her. She is a great source for just a lot of information when it comes to Niantic. I really think she's a great liaison for the community. If you have any feedback, she's the person that you should tweet to, because she's always happy to listen and she's always doing a great job. So shout out to you, Liz. I really appreciate you, and this community really appreciates you. But yeah, so if you ended up enjoying this video, again, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. I am Count Jinsula, and I will catch you all later.